Imagine walking into work tomorrow morning, and suddenly everyone stops talking. Not because of what you're wearing, not because of what you've done, but because floating above your head, every lie you've ever told has become visible for the entire world to read. And the worst part? You can't see a single one of them. Ethan believed he was a good person. Not perfect, just normal. Like everyone else, he paid his bills, worked hard, visited his parents when he could, helped strangers from time to time. Sure, he told a few lies over the years. Tiny ones. The kind everyone tells. I'm almost there. I'm fine. I forgot. I'll do it tomorrow. Nothing serious. At least, that's what he believed. That morning felt completely ordinary. He made coffee, checked his phone, ignored 3 unread messages, looked at himself in the bathroom mirror. Everything looked exactly the same. Same face, same apartment, same routine. If there were any signs that his entire life was about to fall apart, he couldn't see them. The first person he noticed was a little girl. She looked up at him. Her smile disappeared. She grabbed her mother's hand. "Mom," she whispered quietly. "Why are those words following him?" Ethan stopped walking. Words? What words? At first he thought they were staring at his clothes. Maybe there was coffee on his hoodie. Maybe he'd forgotten to zip his backpack. But no matter where he looked, people kept reacting the same way. Some looked uncomfortable, some looked disappointed, a few even looked angry. It was as if everyone knew something that he didn't. When Ethan walked into the office, the room went completely silent. Conversation stopped. Someone accidentally dropped a coffee mug. His manager looked away. His closest friend refused to make eye contact. Nobody said a single word. Yet somehow, their silence was louder than any accusation, and Ethan still had absolutely no idea why. He finally broke the silence. "Can someone please tell me what's going on?" No one answered. People looked at each other, waiting for someone else to speak first. Finally, a woman from accounting whispered, You really can't see them?" His heart skipped a beat. "See what?" She stared at him for a long moment before quietly saying the words. She hesitated. "I don't know if this is some kind of joke, but above your head." She swallowed hard. "Every lie you've ever told is floating there." The room became completely silent again. He laughed, not because it was funny, because it sounded impossible. He rushed to the nearest mirror. Nothing. No glowing words. No strange symbols. Just his reflection. Exactly as it had always been. If everyone else could see something, why couldn't he? For the next hour, he couldn't think about work. His mind replayed every conversation he'd ever had. Had he lied that much? No. Impossible. Everyone lies. Little lies. Harmless lies. The kind that make life easier, don't they? Or had he been lying to himself all along? Leaving the office didn't help. If anything, it got worse. People on the street stared. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked disgusted. A teenage boy laughed as he pointed. An elderly woman quietly shook her head. For the first time in his life, he wanted to disappear. Exhausted, he sat on a quiet park bench. Next to him sat an elderly man feeding pigeons. Unlike everyone else, the old man wasn't staring. He simply smiled. "You finally noticed them," he said softly. The young man froze. "What do you mean, finally?" The old man tossed another handful of birdseed, then quietly said, "They've always been there. The lies. The world just couldn't see them before." The young man stared in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" The old man looked directly into his eyes. "The question isn't why people can finally see your lies," he paused. "The real question is, what are you going to do now that you know they exist?" The young man stared at the old man, searching his face for any sign that this was some elaborate joke. "How do you know all of this?" The old man smiled without looking at him. Because I once stood where you stand today. The young man's heart raced. You mean everyone saw your lies too? The old man nodded slowly. And I made the same choice you're about to make. I spent years trying to erase the words, the old man said. I hid from people. I avoided conversations. I even left my job. He laughed softly, but the words never disappeared. The young man frowned. So what finally made them go away? The old man looked at him. I stopped running from them. That night, the walk home felt longer than ever. Every stranger's glance felt heavier. Every whisper sounded louder. For the first time, he wasn't wondering if people were judging him. He knew they were. But one question kept repeating inside his mind. What lies are they seeing? He searched through old photographs, birthday parties, family vacations, graduation. There were smiles everywhere, but something felt different now. He remembered the arguments behind those smiles, the promises he never kept, the apologies he never made. For the first time, his memories were beginning to tell a different story. He remembered telling his father, I've just been busy. But the truth was, he hadn't called because he didn't want another lecture. He remembered telling a friend, I'm happy for you, when deep inside, he felt jealous. He remembered saying, I'm fine, even when he desperately needed help. Maybe the lies weren't always spoken to hurt someone else. Sometimes they were spoken because the truth was uncomfortable. He looked into the mirror again. Still nothing. No glowing words. No answers. Just himself. Then, for the first time all day, he asked a different question. Not, what can everyone else see? But what if I refuse to see about myself? The silence in the room felt heavier than ever. Because deep down, he already knew the answer. The next morning, for the first time in years, he didn't check his phone. He didn't turn on the television. He didn't try to distract himself. Instead, he grabbed an old notebook. At the top of the page, he wrote one sentence. People I need to tell the truth. He stared at the blank paper for almost a minute. Then slowly, he wrote the first name. His father. Then another. His best friend. Another. His former girlfriend. His manager. His younger sister. The page kept filling. Each name carried a memory. Each memory carried a lie. For the first time, he wasn't trying to hide from them. The first visit was the hardest. His father opened the door. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. His father smiled politely. I wasn't expecting you. Neither was he. His hands were shaking. He had rehearsed this conversation 100 times during the drive. Now every word had disappeared. Finally, he whispered, I'm not here because I had time today. His father looked confused. I'm here because I've been lying to you for years. I kept saying I was busy. I kept pretending work came first. I kept convincing myself I'd visit next weekend. He lowered his head. But the truth is, I was avoiding you. I didn't want another conversation about my life. The room became painfully quiet. His father didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled sadly. I already knew. Most people know the truth long before you finally tell it. The young man looked up. You knew? His father nodded. I just kept pretending to believe you. That sentence stayed with him all day. I already knew. Maybe people had seen the truth long before the glowing words appeared. Maybe the lies had never fooled anyone. Maybe they had only fooled him. The second conversation was even harder. His best friend arrived smiling. So, what emergency couldn't wait? The young man took a deep breath. There isn't one. I just wanted to stop pretending. I spent years acting like I celebrate your success. But every promotion you got, every achievement made me jealous. Silence. Then his friend quietly asked, Do you know why I kept telling you everything anyway? He shook his head. Because I never wanted your perfection. I just wanted your honesty. As he walked away, something felt different. Not outside, inside. The weight he'd carried for years seemed lighter. For the first time, telling the truth hadn't destroyed a relationship. It had strengthened one. Maybe honesty wasn't as dangerous as he'd always believed. Maybe the fear of telling the truth had been far worse than the truth itself. The next morning, people still looked at him. The glowing words were still there, but something had changed. The expressions on people's faces weren't filled with judgment anymore. Some looked curious, some smiled. One elderly woman simply nodded as she walked past. He couldn't understand why. He still couldn't see the words, but unknowingly, they had started to fade. Not because people had forgotten his lies, but because he had finally stopped creating new ones. The next evening, he returned to the park. The pigeons were gone. The old man was gone. Even the small bag of birdseed had disappeared. The bench sat empty. For a moment, he wondered if the old man had ever been there at all. Then he noticed a folded piece of paper resting on the bench. His hands trembled as he picked it up. Only 6 words were written on the front. Now it's time to see them. He unfolded the paper. Inside, there was nothing. No instructions. No explanation. Just a single sentence. The hardest truth to see is the one you've hidden from yourself. The words echoed in his mind. Ready. Was anyone ever truly ready? He closed his eyes, took one deep breath, and looked up. For the first time, he could see them. Hundreds of glowing words, floating silently above his head. His knees almost gave out. He expected to see, I forgot. I'm busy. I'm almost there. Instead, the largest words were completely different. They weren't lies he'd told other people. They were lies he had repeated to himself for years. I'm too late. I'm not enough. I'll do it tomorrow. I don't deserve happiness. I'll never change. Then one final sentence appears, much brighter than all the others. This is just who I am. One after another, they surrounded him. And suddenly, he understood. Those weren't excuses. They had become his identity. Without realizing it, he had spent years building a prison out of sentences that were never true. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He simply smiled, because for the first time, he knew exactly what he needed to change. The words didn't disappear because someone forgave him. They disappeared because he stopped believing them. One by one, the glowing sentences faded into the morning light. Not erased, outgrown. The streets were the same. The buildings were the same. The people were the same. The world had never been the prison. His own thoughts were he had. He no longer cared about looking perfect. He cared about being honest, not only with other people, but with himself. And strangely, that made him freer than he'd ever been. Imagine if every lie you've ever told suddenly became visible. At first, you'd probably worry about what everyone else would think. But maybe that isn't the real question. Maybe the real question is this. If your thoughts became visible, what story would they tell about the person you've become? Would they reveal courage or fear, hope or excuses? Because the most dangerous lies are rarely spoken out loud. They're whispered inside our own minds, day after day, until they begin to sound like the truth. The beautiful thing is, a lie loses its power the moment you stop believing it. So today, before you change your life, change the story you're telling yourself. Because every future you dream about begins with one honest sentence. I am ready. The young man keeps walking toward the sunrise. Just before he disappears into the light, he hears a familiar voice behind him. The old man's voice, soft, calm, almost like a wind. The truth doesn't change who you are. The young man slowly stops walking. He turns around,